In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a juicy steak. Lucky for you, the recipe is very easy to follow and involves a few simple ingredients. And it starts with this, a Wagyu sirloin from Patriot Wagyu, not a sponsor. Thanks for the meat, friends. As you can see, it is highly marbled, which means it's going to be delicious. To keep the steak as pure as possible, we're going to be seasoning it with only salt. Make sure to season it generously on both sides. This steak is a bit girthy at about 1 inch in thickness, so don't be scared of the salt here. You should be using a thick steak as well, and if you're not, I'll direct you to my fajitas recipe below. Once you've seasoned the top and bottom, gather the excess salt off of the surface and onto the sides of that steak. Let this rest at room temperature for 5 to 10 minutes, which is plenty of time to get a pan on the heat. Turn the heat to medium-high and add in about 1 tablespoon of fat of your choice. I'm going with olive oil here, but tallow or lard would be a good starting point as well. As soon as you start seeing wisps of smoke coming from the pan, place your steak and fat cap down. If you're cooking something like a ribeye, you can go ahead and put it on its flat side. Something like the sirloin or a strip steak, I prefer to get the fat seared first. Once the side is seared, go ahead and lay it down to cook. This will be my first of many flips. Even after just a couple of minutes, we already have a great crust started, but it's going to get even better by adding in a couple tablespoons of butter. Once that butter is in the pan, grab a spoon and start basting the steak. I usually spoon over about 10 times before flipping and repeating the process. Keep doing this until you've gotten to the internal temperature that you desire. I'm shooting for a rare on the sirloin, and I know that because I'm poking it, and that's how I learned how to cook steaks. If you're not about touching your meat like I am, feel free to grab a thermometer. I will list a doneness chart on screen now. Once you've achieved a beautiful crust like this, it's time to let it rest. Shoot for 10 minutes at minimum. This allows for the protein strands to relax and for the juices to redistribute. After 10 painstaking minutes, it's time to cut this beauty open. For pretty much all meat, it's going to be more tender when you cut against the grain in the meat. When you do this, you're creating smaller strands of protein per bite. Also, make sure to cut this into a nice bite-sized thickness. Cutting it too thin won't make it as pleasant to eat. After all this time, you're greeted with this, an unbelievably juicy steak. Luckily, we did have Wagyu to work with here, but even a choice grade steak can look like this if these same steps are followed. I know it looks great, but how does it taste? Simple, yet pure. I really enjoy a sirloin steak because it always has a deeper and more beefy flavor than most other steaks. And this one was so tender that it was easy to tear apart with my fingers. Not often do you see that coming from a sirloin. And with that, we've made a fantastic transformation.